Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the MMA Huddle. As always, you are joined by myself and the ever-present Big Willie style. First and foremost, we nearly got a win. Chargers are nearly getting there. We're nearly there, bro. Did you see, though? Woo! Who was it? Dallas Cowboys quarterback ankle. Man, that was not Prescott. I want to say Prescott, but I don't think I am right.
Yeah, right.
It is Prescott.
Yeah.
Man, that was rough. That was heavy, man. You boys got a good performance in as well, so good times for you. On an MMA note, we've got the Brian Ortega and Korean Zombie card to break down shortly. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and as always, give us a like on the video because it helps with our kind of analytic stuff for YouTube, and a comment on your picks for the upcoming card. Now, Sandhagen went and murked Marlon Moraes, and I mean murked, which caught, I think, a lot of people off guard with that kind of performance. Styles make matchups. Will, quick take on last week's card. There was another little knockout in there as well, but overall, what was your thoughts on last week's kind of card and fights?
I think last week was my card of the year, honestly. I loved last week's card. I thought there was, even before that, before the event, I was like, there was fighters I wanted to see. There was new guys coming in who I'd seen before and I knew what they could do. So I was just looking forward to seeing some of these new people, but some of the fights, and it started off really good with the flyweight bout, very close back and forward fight, could have really went either way. Giga, I thought, looked amazing. I thought he's undefeated in the UFC and he's gradually taking tougher opponents, and he's bound to get a bigger jump next. And then it all kind of kicked off with the Buckley knockout. I mean, that I was literally gobsmacked when that when he landed. I was like, he did not land that, and just like the reaction, everything, unbelievable. Tom Breeze comes back and, I mean, does what a kind of a confident Tom Breeze does, and he can do. And then you went to Puri, I thought, really good, considering he came in 9 days' notice. Tom Aspinall, it's pretty clear the guy needs to step up in caliber opposition. Duplessis, great knockout in his debut, and then it kind of went into Barboza. He looked great. I kind of thought that's how he could look in that fight. He looked very dominant. And then Sandhagen, honestly, I thought that he could be competitive. Obviously, if you're in that top 10 of that division, you're very competitive because it's one of the biggest shark tanks there. But, I mean, for him to go out there and douse Marlon Moraes the way he did, that's a massive feather in his cap. And he's put himself kind of in line there for the winner of Jan, maybe Stirling, but I still think he needs to take another fight, whether it be an Edgar, or I actually think the TJ Dillashaw fight makes sense when he comes back in January. So we'll wait and see how that kind of plays out, but it's a big win for him. Just a great card, really great card, and it's got me buzzed kind of going into this one here for some of the fighters we have here, and the main event I think is a potential to be a really good main event, and every time the Korean Zombie steps in there, there's usually craziness that happens and big moments in fights. And can he take anything away from T-City as well? Brian Ortega, he's a all-action fighter, blood guts, very durable. We've seen that the kid's got a lot of heart, and probably one of the most dangerous grapplers we've got in the UFC today. So looking forward to getting to talking about this card.
Yeah, bro, it is going to be an awesome card to break down. Maybe Sandhagen, Jose Aldo could be something.
Yeah, he's due like a. It's hard because obviously if Stirling wins, you're not going to make that fight again. No. Jan, you could match them up absolutely, but the way that's going to be happening in December, chances are that belt's not defended before May, June again, possibly, depending on how quick it finishes. And I mean, TJ Dillashaw is ready to come back, and that's a name that even if I'm Corey Sandhagen, I know he's been out a couple of years, whatever. If you take out Corey Sandhagen, TJ Dillashaw, I should say, that's a massive kind of feather in your cap, even though I think they were training partners at one point, so that'd be interesting to see if that would ever happen. Not anymore, obviously. But
I don't think they have a choice, to be fair.
No, I think if I'm Sandhagen, I try and get that TJ Dillashaw fight in January and maybe early February and see how that plays out, and try and get like a two-time divisional champion on your resume there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll, like you say, it would set him up nicely for a title fight.
It would.
Yeah, it would indeed. Let us know who you think maybe should be the next opponent for Corey Sandhagen, ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section below. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Now, what we're going to do is jump into this upcoming card. Like we said before, Ortega, Korean Zombie. So we're going to start at the very bottom of the card, work our way up. We have, in the bantamweight division, Mark Striegl against said Nurmagomedov. Well, interesting clash of styles, really, this fight. What are we looking at in this fight, mate?
So I think you've got Striegl there, who in my opinion, the fights I've watched, I've only watched 3 fights of his. He wants to kind of get the fight to the ground. I think on the feet, I don't think he will kind of have all too much for Said Nurmagomedov, even though Striegl looks the part. He looks amazing, actually. He looks like he really kind of works out, put it that way. He looks great. Side Nurmagomedov, more of a kind of striker. I think he's all around a better fighter. Spins a little bit too much for my liking, but when he catches you, he's got a lot of power behind those strikes. But the big thing for me is just the caliber of opposition. You've got someone in Striegl coming in with, I think, it's probably his biggest fight he's probably ever had is against Reece McLaren, who's a named guy kind of out in the ONE FC kind of side of them out there, and he's a guy that's kind of well known with kind of ONE FC. Where you've got Nurmagomedov, who's coming off against the loss against Raoni Barcelos, which in my opinion is a big fight against Barcelos. Barcelos is good, and then he beat Ricardo Ramos there. So I think if Striegl can't get the fight to the ground, I think he's just a little bit outgunned in the feet. So that's going to lean me on to side Nurmagomedov. The betting line's probably a little bit too high for my liking right now, but I'll take side. I think that once Striegl starts to really can't get the fight to the ground, he might be kind of clutching at straws a little bit, and he could start taking some big strikes. So I'll probably take Nurmagomedov via TKO in the third.
Yeah, Mark Striegl, like you say, on that Reece bout as well. Reece stepped in short notice against Mark and was able to still get out of it. It seems that Mark, when he gets on top, one thing I've found that he lacks, he's good at transitioning. He's okay at going for the submission attempts, but he doesn't have a lot on top to offer in damage. I feel like if he could add a bit of ground and pound to his game, as well as the top dominance that he can get, he'd have a far more effective fight plan and a far more effective outcome in his fights. He'd probably get submissions a bit quicker because guys would not make mistakes, but they'd move around a bit more and open up the opportunities for submissions. He is, like you say, Will, he's not weak. He definitely eats his vegetables. Doesn't eat fat, doesn't eat crisps like you and me will, but he's all looks, but I feel like there is, like I say, a lacking in maybe skills set on the feet. He certainly doesn't have a fluidity when he's striking, where on the other side you've got a guy who not only throws spinning stuff, he throws a different variation of combinations. Nurmagomedov will throw spinning kicks, like you say, Will, high, low kicks. He goes for the head as well as the body with the strikes. He mixes combinations well, so you're not always knowing what's coming forward. The only kind of worry is with Nurmagomedov is if he misses a couple of strikes, over time you see it does start to slow him down a little bit because they're explosive movements. So I'm only concerned is if Striegl can get the grappling aspect involved, and if Nurmagomedov misses some shots and he starts to tire a bit, Striegl could edge out a decision with the grappling. But I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov because he'll have a good takedown defense to kind of defend himself from Mark, because I feel like in the second, third round, it's when Mark Striegl starts to slow down a bit, definitely starts to tire, and you can see in his fights. So I'm going Nurmagomedov as well. I think he could certainly get a decision win, if not a late stoppage in the third round potentially. Next up we have in a light heavyweight bout, so we're going from little boys to big boys. We have Antigulov against Maxim Grishin. Yeah, you know I can pronounce these names all day. So Gads, we'll give him called Gads because he's my boy. I've Antigulov is how do I explain what Antigulov is? Not very good. That's the best way, as most polite way I can explain Antigulov. I'm trying to think of the guy who beat Darren Stewart, went up to middleweight at Cage Warriors card. Who's the gentleman?
Babinski.
He is like a poor man's version of him.
Yeah,
that is exactly what he is.
He's super bust. It's pretty much that.
And that's first round sub as well. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, Antigulov, he's short, strong, built like a little ox, but he is just full bore. Right? Max Grishin, looked good at heavyweight in his fight, to be fair. I thought he didn't look too bad, considering that he was a 30-plus pound difference in weight. Max Grishin showed pretty good cardio. He showed good conditioning, and his striking was solid. He got solid takedown. I think Antigulov's going to have a tough time getting Maxim down in the grappling aspect, because he knows Maxim knows that's what's going to come forward. And Tybur, I think that in the fight that Grishin had, I thought he did okay. It was more a survival thing, because he was theoretically just not meant to win the fight anyway, but I thought he bowed himself well in his UFC kind of tenure. Antigulov, I just feel that his takedowns aren't clean, so he will charge at you, get you to the cage, and he does not cut his angles, so he's not changing angle to get the takedowns. He kind of seems to press you up and then try to pull you. He uses all muscle. As you saw in the Kutateladze fight, you start hitting those body shots, and he slows down quick. I think Maxim Grishin here, as long as he's Grishin, sorry, I think as long as he's wise to the takedowns, just knows he has to kind of hold off for 3 minutes is what you kind of got to hold off for. This guy literally is 3 minutes, and then you're pretty good. I would have got Maxim Grishin here. I think he could finish him in the first or second or third round. I just don't see where. I just don't have a lot of faith in Gulov, because I think he's absolutely gopping.
Yeah, I've already said it's super bust. He's got 3. You say that he's kind of got 3 minutes of gas in him, where he will try his damnedest to get that submission, but once he's got there, he's got very little else. So I have to kind of side on the Grishin side as well. So earlier on in the week, I was kind of like, I was actually contemplating maybe taking a shot on Antigulov, and the betting line's it's like plus 300, so he's big odds, maybe even higher than that actually. But I definitely will not be betting kind of Grishin at the odds he's at. But yeah, there's not really much to kind of talk about with this fight. The fact that Antigulov will come out, he will bum rush, he'll look to put you against the cage and try and grab a hold of your neck. I think Grishin's been in too many fights, too many spots to really fall for anything like that. But I'm going to take Maxim Grishin. I think once that kind of 3 minutes is over, he might go into the second round. He will start to absolutely pick apart Antigulov, and Antigulov will start covering up, and that fight will be stopped. So I've got Grishin via stoppage.
Lovely stuff, bro. Next up we have in the lightweight division, we have Jamie Mullarkey versus Faraz Ziam. Well, I like this matchup. It's they're two kind of equally placed lightweights. They're still early days in the UFC tenure. I like the fight. What are you looking forward to, bro?
Yeah, like 2 entry fighters into the UFC, only with one kind of fight each. And both, well, I don't want to say both fights were great, but the Mullarkey one was an absolute banger. It was a banger with Brad Riddell. I mean, if you go in there and you go blood and guts with a guy like him, and you take some of his best shots, somehow stay on your feet for some of them, but then deliver back and plant your feet and put Riddell down on a knee, that's saying something. So he's obviously got a bit of power. He's dogged. He's determined to kind of stay in the fight at all times. We'll jump in on takedowns. He did that a couple of times against Riddell and got him down once kind of things were looking a bit dodgy. But he's super hittable. But in saying that, Riddell is known for good striking. So for his time, when I watch him, a lot younger, probably striking wise than what Riddell has. I mean, he's only 23. Riddell's probably been doing kickboxing and stuff like that 15 odd years ago. I mean, you can't really take too much from Ziam's kind of UFC debut against Don Madge, because it was just a clinch fest really for the most part. So you kind of have to go back into the kind of regional fights there. And he's a kickboxer by trade, but he seems to go for a lot of takedowns, which is kind of interesting to me. I think in this one here, he'll have more opportunities to throw his strikes and land strikes, and I have seen him one-punch knock out a guy that was on the Tough Show when Conor McGregor was on there. He was on his team, absolutely caught him clean with a right hand. I think it was straight down the pipe and turned his lights out, and he's got submission skills. Once he gets the fight to the ground, he does make mistakes. He kind of shows you his age a little bit there, where he's a little bit too eager to get into bigger positions and better positions, I should say. And I think Mullarkey will start to capitalise on some of that. I think both guys will get takedowns. I think if they're up against the cage, Ziam, I think he'll maybe get some trips and get Mullarkey down momentarily. But I think on the feet, Ziam to me is cleaner, longer, throws with more variation. So I like him in this spot here, but I think it could be ultimately very close. Ziam's underdog. I'm going to side with him in this one here, though.
Yeah, the Don Madge fight was a hard fight.
Yeah.
It was. And I was surprised at that fight, but like I said, when it was a clinch fest, but when they did break up, there was opportunities, and Ziam was throwing shots, and Don Madge is an absolute little savage. I look forward to watching Don Madge fight. Jay Mullarkey, he's got Ross Pearson in his corner, doesn't he, training him and helping him out, and I suppose if you've kind of taken much out of Ross Pearson is he bites that gum shield and he comes forward and he is a war with Ross Pearson, and Jamie absolutely kind of replicates that, and he's just a younger version, so he's a bit more durable. But the kind of downside to that skill set is, like you say, well, you get hit too many times, it starts to then not be an asset. It starts to become a liability of you as a fighter. I think he's a good young fighter. I think he's got a lot of qualities to him. I think he's got a decent gas tank, like you said, with the Riddell fight that showed a good conditioning, being able to take the punch, keep coming back in the exchanges. He could have made a couple of different decisions in that fight, but I suppose in the heat of the moment, it's easy to make decisions that he made. That obviously Riddell went on to win, but for me, Ziam he's very calm with his striking as well, smooth and fluid. He just looks, like you said, they're early in their tenures, but when you compare the striking, it was definitely like a young boy with a mature mind with the striking that Ziam has compared to Mullarkey, who still, it seems like he's still young with the striking and still aggressive and overzealous, so to speak. For me, I think from, like you say, well, the regional fights as well from Ziam, he showed a kind of deft touch. He showed an assassin-like feature, which he just didn't get to use in the Don Madge fight. And you can't just... But you can look at the Don Madge fight, though, and say that he did good, like defending takedowns, battling the underhooks. So he showed, he's got the conditioning, he's got the grappling aspect for defence. So if Jamie Mullarkey's going for the takedowns, he's got to time it correct and bang on, because he's going to have a tough time getting Ziam down. I'm going Ziam down. I think the kid can get the win with the striking on the feet. I think Jamie will probably go for a couple of takedowns, which will end up in a grappling exchange where he'll break up and they'll carry on fighting again with the kind of failed takedowns. How he wins, I don't know. I would probably go with decision, because Mullarkey seems that he's got a bit of a toughness to him that he might be able to survive it. But it's a fight I'm looking forward to be honest with you, because I think this one could be a potential fight of the night banger. If they both don't take each other down, it could go and swing. I'm going to say this out loud. I can't believe I'm saying this. John Phillips. Yep, John Phillips. Yeah, the Welshman who's still in the UFC. Is fighting Yong Park. I mean, how many chances did John Phillips get? I don't get it. He's not. I don't get it, Will. In a quick nutshell, can you even remotely explain why or how do you think that is? I don't. And it's not even against him.
I just think it's his last. This is his last hurrah. I think it's winner go home, and that's kind of. He's 35 now. So
35 exactly.
Yeah, but he's been given an opportunity. Let's see if he takes it.
That's what I mean. That's what confused me. I thought to myself, well, the guy's only had one win in his UFC 10 years, so he's 1-4. He's 35 years old. Weirdly, annoyingly, at 35, he seems in the best condition he's been in his career. You know, it's like, why have you only bothered to pull your thumb out yourself this way now? But anyway, man, he got absolutely battered in his last fight. Can't blame him. Sort of Reese
Got to the second round, though. Got to the second round, so can't take that. He did.
Yeah, he's durable enough to last to the second round.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was pretty rough viewing. No one was surprised the way the fight went in the manner of which he was taken down. He was ground and pounded and just overwhelmed. And he got to the second round, and you knew, and I knew, and everyone else in the whole world knew what was going to happen. He was going to go for another takedown or rinse and repeat, and there was absolutely no attempt to stop it from John Phillips. And there was no real effort. I was a bit. Oh, yeah, it's just a bit like, why is he still here? Because it seems that if you give him a wrestler or anyone who's got any form of even an ounce of grappling, he'll lose. But I think with Park, I think it's interesting fight, man, because I thought, oh, they're giving Park an opportunity to beat someone like John Phillips, get himself on a leaderboard. But for me, Park is like, he stays in the pocket a bit too much. He'll stand and throw, but he also has takedowns in him. But I feel like in this fight, has Jung Yong Park got the fight IQ and, yeah, that's the issue, the knowledge to go, yeah, I'm not going to stand with this dude because he does, John Phillips hits hard, people. I'm not going to deny John Phillips that. He hits hard, but he hits within about a 1 meter radius because that's as far as his T-Rex arms will let him go. So as long as you can stay outside of that range, you're safe. Jack Marshman was the one. Like, Jack Marshman just kept jabbing and using straights to stay out of the range of John Phillips. Jung here, he hasn't got that finesse of staying out of range. I don't want to pick John Phillips, but I am fully expecting John Phillips to win with a knockout. In my head's going, he's probably going to get a knockout here, isn't he? Because Park isn't that good at defending punches. He's not that good at finding the range. But I'm going to pick Park, because how the hell can I pick John Phillips? How? Why would I want to pick John Phillips? Jun Yong Park, please just take him down and beat him. For the love of money, I don't think you will. But you've got submission wins in you. So I'm going to go with Park. But honestly, right now I'll say it, I think Phillips probably knock him out.
I'm on the Park side because I think that the one thing from his last fight is that he can get takedowns.
Yeah.
And that's something that he didn't really use too much before. Now, if he uses that kind of game plan here, I think he can win the fight. Because you just don't want to stand there with John Phillips, because if you give him the opportunity to throw bombs, then you're just playing into his wheelhouse a little bit. So don't do that. Mix it up. Now, the thing is as well, when you watch his previous fights, he will stand there and throw heavy shots. So that just brings Phillips straight into the fight. But I'm kind of going off his last fight there where he got, I think it was five takedowns against Barrio. Use that here. You can get this guy down, absolutely, and you can have top time on this guy and maybe knock him out with ground and pound or whatever it may be, but just don't stand there and give Phillips the fight he wants, because you've seen in the Amedovski fight, when even if you're not swinging 100% straight off the bat, it doesn't take much for him to catch you. So I'm on the Park side. I think this will be John Phillips' last hurrah. It might even be, who knows, it could be maybe his last fight, because like I say, 35, coming on 36 soon. What do you really do after this? Do you go back to the regionals and just make kind of tuppence down there after kind of getting a fairly decent deal in the UFC? I'm going to take Jung Yong Park. I think I'm assuming he's going to fight smart. That's the thing, sitting here and saying that. He might completely come out and say, I want to strike with this guy. This guy was called the White Mike Tyson. Let's see what he's all about. So, I'll go with Jung Yong Park. I just think that he can, when I look at him from his last fight, he can have the possibilities to mix up a little bit. Even though his takedowns weren't great and he wasn't really holding the guy down for too long, he's got that in his back pocket, and that's enough for me to kind of pick him here. So yeah.
There's only one thing I'd like. If John Phillips goes and leaves, gets cut by the UFC, there's only one fight I'd love to see happen, but I don't think they'll make it happen because of the gym. Charlie Ward, John Phillips, Bellator.
Did he not knock him out?
Oh, in UFC, in his UFC tenure.
Who?
John Phillips. Was that in the regional scenes? But what I'm saying is on Bellator. It was on the regional scene, wasn't it? It was. I wasn't Budo. It was on another promotion that he fought on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was on. Yeah, I think you're right. But that could happen in Bellator. Absolutely, that could probably happen. Yeah.
Because Charlie Ward is. I'm not saying he's any good, folks. I am absolutely the last thing I'd ever say is that. But he's getting the right matchups to make himself look good. So if you're going to make a fight, if I'm Bellator, I'd look at John Phillips and go, well, we're going to get at least 2 years out of him. Let's get him a couple of fights. Charlie Ward, perfect. Good advertisement, that one. And then might see Charlie Ward get absolutely sparked again, which was beautiful to watch. Oh, that was so good. Next up we have, ladies and gentlemen, in the welterweight division, a fight which I am looking forward to. This is probably one of my top 3 fights on the card that I'm looking forward to. It's Cláudio Silva against James Krause. And the reason why I'm looking forward to it is it's James Krause, man. That dude is just badass. Stepping in another 2 weeks short notice or so, 2 weeks or so short notice. Hell of a match. What are we going for, bro?
Yeah, it is a good fight, and like I say, Krause is jumping back in there, kind of short notice again, but it's fairly off. You see him kind of all the time now, and as a coach in the corner, so he's obviously getting these guys ready, like Kevin Kroom, and there was Derek Minor, and there was Grant Dawson. So he's keeping himself in and about amongst the gym, and he's probably keeping himself fresh for these opportunities to kind of jump in here. And he's against a really tough guy, like a guy you always forget about because you never see him fight, but when he comes back, he wins. And when he usually wins, he usually stops guys, he subs them out. So, but he's been doing that for so long now that he's knocking on 40's door. And that in the welterweight division is not really a premium age to be in that division. Let's put it that way. It's because the fighters that are coming through in that division are real young, hungry fighters. But Krause has been around a long time, very savvy, stays on the feet. He can pick apart Silva, in my opinion. He can use low kicks. He can immobilise him with those. Where this fight has to go for Silva to win is on the ground, and once he gets there, that guy's nasty. But you've got Krause, a guy who's been around for a long time, no slouch on the ground either. But to me, Silva with his heavy top game, and he's just heavy as a fighter on the ground altogether. He does give up some positions. I mean, you watch the Danny Roberts fight, and Danny's not particularly known as a kind of jits guy, but he's always had a little bit of that in him. But he survived some spots, and I think his fight IQ kind of let him down a little bit in that fight, where if that fight was on the feet, he was picking apart Silva, but he decided to want to play in the ground with him. If you do that with too long with this guy, it doesn't take much for him to wrap something up. So I'm actually going to go with Silva in this one, even though I've had a few kind of thoughts of thinking that that's a really silly pick. But every time I say that with Silva, like I did it with Nordine Taleb, I thought Taleb's going to keep this in the feet and he's going to pick him apart, but he just finds a way to get a trip or get a holdie and get the fight to the ground, and once he gets it there, he finishes fights. So I'll take the underdog in Cláudio Silva here. I think that he's got a decent opportunity of maybe getting it done, but Krause is a savvy vet himself, so who knows. But I'll take a shot on Cláudio Silva in this spot here.
And Cláudio's on a 14-fight win streak still. Let's not forget that, man. Like that's something to be respected, and you know, you've got to look at him like he was fighting Danny Roberts, got lit up, rocked a few times, and cut open, bleeding everywhere, and he almost looked out of it as well in that third round when he was on his back, and then just slapped on that armbar, and that was it. Obviously, there was a yelp, a verbal tap out by Danny Roberts. Obviously, Danny's not happy. He won't be happy that he let the yelp out, is what it'll be. In hindsight, he wish he'll have kept that yelp in to keep, because he knows that the arm was coming out. But Cláudio Silva, like you say, Will, one big issue is cardio. He certainly seems to have a distinct lack in that cardio division when it comes to the second, third round. James Krause does not have that issue. The Wally Alves fight was a good example where Alves was just goosed by the end of the first round, and you know, James Krause was like, yeah, I'm good, let's keep going. I'm only just warmed up, and just kept piling that pressure on, and you just saw Alves just like, I can't, I'm knackered, I'm goosed. Krause has got a good array of striking. He switches stances. He's got a nice quick jab. He's just smart, high fight IQ. He's got a good defense on the ground. Again, I think he's in his own right a black belt. Obviously, I'm not sure the level of black belt that Krause is and the level that Cláudio is. There's obviously, don't forget, folks, that just because you're given it doesn't mean it's the same level of black belt. You know, Tim down the road, black belt is not the same as a Nogueira black belt. So take it what you will with that. But with James Krause, I think I'm going to pick James Krause here for this late spot. Stop it, jumping in. I just think he's almost like fighting with a bit of freedom these days. He just doesn't care about rankings, fighting for a title. None of that stuff's playing his mind. He's fighting for the freedom of just fighting. It certainly feels like he's fighting with a bit of a weight of his shoulders. He's a lot more smooth with his striking capabilities. And he's just been impressive, man. And I think Cláudio Silva, he's getting away with wins. Like we said, Will, he's getting the wins. But he is getting hurt. He is getting rocked. And I think that it's got to run out at some point. It has to. There's no way you can just keep pulling it off. Like you said, Will, I think he's 38. I think he is, Silva. And age is a factor. I love Cláudio Silva to bits. Lovely human being. Met him. absolute gentleman. I'm kind of swaying towards James Krause in this one. I just think the array of striking he has, because don't forget, Danny Roberts doesn't have great takedown defense, and he got absolutely mauled in that first round on a grappling aspect, but Krause has got good takedown defense with someone like Cláudio Silva who shoots from about a mile away. So I'm going to go with Krause on this one. Next up we have Gillian Roberts, who, talking about black belts, I believe she just got a black belt from Miss Dean Thomas. Kudos to her. She's about 12 years old, so, well done. Against Poliana Botelho. Now, I think we can all say we know what Gillian Roberts is. She is a developing mixed martial artist. And what I mean by that is her striking game isn't there, but her grappling aspect is. She's got a lot of confidence on the ground, likes to shoot for the ground and takedowns and get submission wins. So, with prepping for her, if you can keep the fight standing, you've got a far greater chance. Now, her opponent, Poliana, obviously lost to Cynthia via submission, rear naked choke. So that's something in her mind that she must be thinking, right, there is an opportunity here, because Poliana has herself not had any submission wins. So I'm not saying there's a great hole in Poliana's game, but it certainly feels like it's a striker and a grappling aspect to it. My thing about it is, I just feel that Gillian Roberts, as long as she can get that grappling aspect involved with setting up the takedowns better than she has done in the past, she has a far greater chance of winning and getting. She's good at getting fights to the ground. She isn't bad when she gets fights to the ground. She's not bad. She's got a good top game on her as well. I think she's not too bad as well when she's on top of fighters, on top of her opponents. She's under the tutelage of Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas, who's a very smart fighter himself. Her win against Courtney Casey, obviously, was the last one she had. When was that, this year? Was it this year? Yeah, it was this year at some point. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Solid little win. The Macy Barber one was the kind of only red flag. You just think to yourself, but can she learn from it? I do believe so. I think Poliana's going to have to keep the fight standing, get really good sprawls, and land heavy shots to put Gillian Robertson off. I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson. I just think that, I don't know, I think if she can get the fight down, she really is a nightmare for opponents. And obviously with Dean Thomas, she's always growing and developing and learning the strike game. And Dean Thomas will be adding more information to it. She trains a lot with Josie Torres as well, who is in his own right. He's a very good striker. He's good at mixing up strikes on the southpaw orthodox. So I'm going to kind of go with Gillian Roberts. I feel like she's still. I think she's got a lot of development still. She's only 25. I think a couple of years' time she could still be, pushing up in the top 10, top 5.
Yeah, it's one of these fights at striker v grappler here, and it's fairly obvious what both girls kind of want to do, and they both get good skill sets in their chosen kind of fields there. The one thing that you kind of look at is obviously the loss to Cynthia Calvillo, where she got to the ground and she really got dominated very, very quickly, and that was against a Cynthia Calvillo who had a terrible, terrible weight cut. Probably didn't have all that much strength to her, but once she got to the ground, she was absolutely trumping what Botelho had. But Botelho's got some big strikes. You can see that. You've seen that against Kondo, where that big body kick folded her. And we've seen with Gillian Robertson, if she cannot get where she wants the fight to be, she folds, and you can back her up against the cage, and you can absolutely spike her out of there and hit her with some massive, massive shots. And apart from the Calvillo loss, I mean, she's shown she's got fairly decent takedown defense. She's stuffed some girls' attempts in there. I'm going to go with Botelho. I'm going to take her to knock out Gillian Robertson. I think that there could be some spots here where it could get a little bit dicey, but I think eventually she's going to come into this fight and knock her out. So I'm going to take a shot on Poliana Botelho to knock out Gillian Robertson, because, like I say, we all know what Gillian wants to do. If Botelho can keep this one standing, she's going to absolutely wreck Gillian Robertson. But it could be the exact opposite on the other side. If Robertson gets the fight to the ground, she could completely go through her like butter. So I'm going to go with Poliana Botelho via TKO.
Nice, bro. Yeah, it is. It is a 50-50 gamble on the two of them in that respect. Main event for the prelims. Debut for the both gentlemen. Mateusz Gamrot against Guram. Here we go. Kutateladze. I think that'll do it, yeah. I'm saying it once, you're not getting it again. That's it. I'm just going to call him Guram now. Will, what are you seeing, bro, in this bout?
Good matchup. Two good guys coming into the UFC, like two really sound, solid guys coming into the UFC. There'll be probably a lot of people that don't know who Mateusz Gamrot is, which is kind of crazy considering he's undefeated and he's a former 2-division champion in KSW. And honestly, in my opinion, I think he should have been in the UFC a couple of years ago at least. A guy that's been out to American Top Team previous years. I don't think he's probably not been there this year, but he's got a great group of fighters in Poland that you kind of see him in various corners through KSW events there. So he gets good looks with really good fighters out of KSW. And KSW, in my opinion, for me, enjoyment-wise, it's UFC, and then it's probably KSW and Cage Warrior side by side. The other Bellator I watch here and there, but I love KSW. I still need to get out to one of those cards out there in Poland because they put on an absolute show. And I mean, Gamrot to me is just a total well-rounded fighter, decent striking, can mix up there. But I think where he shines, it's just his dominance on the ground. He's a good wrestler, good positional grappler, really good submission grappler, and can really kind of stifle you and win rounds through that. Not really a big prominent finisher in all his fights, but will happily go 15, 25 minutes in a fight to get the win and completely snuff you out. I mean, you've seen a bit of the bad blood with Norman Park. Like when the kind of chips were raised there, he kind of went after it and got Norman Park. He absolutely beat him up actually in that fight there. Guram here, a guy that, I mean, he's another Georgian that's coming at the UFC, and Georgia is fast becoming like a big country coming through. It kind of resembles kind of Ireland, the way they kind of came through. But these guys, I think, are more legit than what the Irish fighters that made it to the UFC are. These guys are like undefeated, throwing you around, big, decent striking. And this is another guy here that I don't think he's predominantly a grappler, but his striking is lethal if he gets his shots off, and you have to be very, very careful. I have seen him use his grappler. I don't think he's his go-to. I think he's more of a stand-up guy. If you guys haven't seen the Felipe Silva knockout, just go and watch it. It's on YouTube, and it's an absolute crazy, crazy minute of a fight where he gets hurt, kind of wobbles a little bit, but then he absolutely pings the chin of Felipe Silva to the point where Felipe Silva's kind of looking up, and then Guram comes to kind of give him a hug and make sure everything's okay, and he's like, "Who's that?" He's asking what's going on. So for me, I just like the overall experience of Gamrot here. I think that he will work it to the ground, and his submission grappling will start to kind of take over. Whether he gets a finish, I've no idea, but he's coming in here on short notice, more short notice than what Gamrot was. I'm going to take Gamrot. I think he wins a fairly kind of comfortable 30-27 decision, but he has to kind of mind his P's and Q's with Kutateladze because the guy's got big, devastating power. But I've got Gamrot in his debut here and expect him to get a big jumping kind of caliber opposition. Not that Guram's bad, but I think that they need to throw a little bit more respect in his name of Gamrot, and hopefully he kind of comes out here with a decent performance and gets that half-decent fight next.
Yeah, and Gamrot, like you said, not much to add on that perspective of who he is and where he's come from. And like me and Will have said before, KSW is a promotion you should be looking at and paying attention to because, you know, I know they do the kind of circus marquee fights every now and then, but they have got legitimate, absolute monsters on their promotion. If you didn't see their recent middleweight title fight, Scott Askin was the champion. He lost to an insatiable knockout by Gary Love, who, if it wasn't for Jarquin Buckley getting that knockout, I think people would be talking more about that knockout. It's just weird that in the same night we had two phenomenal finishes. So I honestly, KSW is a great promotion, and Gamrot, you know, he was given savages in that promotion. He fought hard fights, like you said. Well, he's got great conditioning. He can go for that 25 minutes, and he has got a phenomenal amount of energy for that style of fighting anyway, because it's hard to grapple hard, heavy, and be aggressive for that long, for 25 minutes, and he does a very good job of it. I'm kind of swaying towards Gamrot as well, Will. I just feel that Guram, a little bit short notice. Obviously, he'll be all right with the travelling. It's not as much the travelling, but it's more a case of a little bit slight less time preparation. Gamrot is an absolute cardio machine. 3 rounds here should be a walk in the park for him, and he should be able to be pretty quick and quick off the mark to close the distance down for Guram and just really wear him down. And even if it's working him on a cage for a couple of minutes before he gets it down, I could see that happen. Guram, though, like you said, apart from the Felipe Silva fight, his fights outside of that as well. He's fought on Brave FC, Superior Challenge. He's fought on reputable promotions before, so do not take Guram for lightly, thinking he's just from a regional scene. Yes, Brave FC, I wouldn't even call it is a regional show, so to speak, but they have big fights on, and big fighters. A lot of fighters are coming to the UFC at the moment from there. It seems that that's the go-to promotion for Abu Dhabi for short notice fighters, maybe because they're more localized and it's a bit easier to get hold of. But they've shown that they've got some good names there. So I'm kind of going towards Gamrot. I just feel like he can get this win. And I think Guram, though, is going to be an absolute monster in the lightweight division anyway. In a couple of years, you might see him be, flying up the ranks too, as well as Gamrot. It's just timing more than anything. So I'm going to go at Gamrot on the decision, that one. Featherweight division, though. The return of Thomas Almeida against, a game opponent, Jonathan Martinez. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Almeida came to the UFC, was murking people here and there. He was just looking phenomenal, and Thomas Almeida's got a legit grappling aspect to him. He's a black belt, brown belt, is it? Brown belt in jiu-jitsu, sorry. So he is a little bit of a ninja, a little whiz on the ground if he needs to be. He's got that asset, but he's just so good with his hands and powerful with his hands. Then, obviously, the Cody fight, which was, for me, that was one of the most anticipated bantamweight fights that wasn't a title fight. I was so amped for that fight before it happened, and when it happened, it did not disappoint. I didn't care between Cody and Thomas who won. I was just happy that fight was happening because you had two guys who were legit power KO artists, and Cody got the win. He came back, got the win against Albert Morales. Beautiful. But then you've got the Jimmy Rivera fight where Jimmy, kudos to him, he hurt Thomas Almeida in that fight. You just saw vulnerability to Thomas Almeida. Jimmy just was able to pour it on for 3 rounds, looked solid in that fight. And then Rob Font, Rob Font, kudos there. That was a hell of a stoppage. And that was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago. That's a while. Yeah, sorry, nearly 3 rounds. Yeah, you're right, bro. So my worry is ring rust. I don't care. Dominic Cruz says no such thing, all that. Well, I don't call it ring rust. It's more than your reaction time then. What's the reaction time going to be like? Well, he's fighting a guy in Jonathan Martinez, who so far in the UFC has impressed me bucket loads. The guy is compact with his defense, takes not that much damage, and he has got a hell of a counter and throws off a good array of strikes and good output. Thomas Almeida is not in an easy fight here. Jonathan Martinez is hard-nosed dude, and he will put in a shift in this fight. I think Thomas Almeida, he's got a hard fight against a kid who's a couple of years younger, but man, I'm gonna go Jonathan Martinez, bro. I thought that the Andre Ewell split decision was a bit meh. I thought the Frankie Saenz win there, that was, Frankie Saenz, don't get me wrong, he's 39, he wasn't that awesome, but I don't know why, but I kind of feel that Jonathan Martinez has a kind of nice, compact defense, which I think Thomas Almeida is going to have a tough time with, and he counters really well. And I just think Thomas Almeida, great to have that time off, recover, maybe his chin's tightened up a bit. I just worry. I don't know how I'll feel when I think Jonathan Martinez could hit and land on Almeida. How does he respond? I'm going to go Martinez as a wild one here. This is a bit of a wild pick here. I want Jonathan Martinez possibly stoppage.
I actually think this is the fight I'm looking forward to the most alongside the main event, I think. And it's mostly because, Martinez is a really half-decent fighter, but I'm a big Thomas Almeida fan. I really am. Just a really violent fighter. And when you watch his fights, there's not one fight he's had in the UFC which is a stinker. Not one at all. There's been action in it. He either gets hurt, he hurts his opponent. But then he's kind of seen with his early kind of UFC tenure that he went 20-0, and he had a lot of fights before that where he maybe never had the kind of mileage on him. He came through some fighters. He went through Anthony Burchak, who's a veteran. The Brad Pickett one, he took his licks in that fight there. He was an absolute mess after the first round, and then absolutely I was at that event in Vegas, and it was like lighting off a rocket for the rest of that card through the main event, through the main card. It was crazy where it went after that. And then he faced my boy Cody Garbrandt, and that was a horrible fight for me to pick. I actually went back and watched the prediction video I made for that. It's kind of crazy to me. I was looking at it now. It's 2016 for that fight, and I'm like, really? No way. So that was a tough one for me to pick there. But I said from the minute Cody entered the UFC, he was going to have the belt, and he came out there, and his hands were too fast for Almeida, and Almeida is too hittable. He is very hittable. You can get him if you can land the right shots. Rivera, he lost. He had the Morales win, but then he jumped into another kind of caliber opposition with Font and Rivera, and they're top 15 guys, top 10 guys at a push, especially Rivera. And he just got hit with too many, especially in the Rivera one. Early on, he got dropped a couple of times, rebounded in the second, then Rivera used takedowns in the third, and then Font, I actually thought he won the kind of first round, but then he got hurt in the second, and then he got taken out. So a 3-year layoff, that's big. He's been working a lot with Charles Oliveira, which is kind of interesting to me. See, because I think he can take this fight to the ground. I think if Andre Ewell can take this guy down and have a little bit of success, I think Thomas can. But Thomas Almeida's not known for takedowns, so he's going to stand there. When you look at Martinez, I don't think he's got great hands. I think that's a kind of work in progress, but his kicks are very efficient, very dangerous, very quick. His timing of knees and kind of counter knees is very, very good as well. So that's something that Almeida, if he kind of plants his feet or he comes charging, then he could eat some shots with low kicks or knees to the kind of the higher extremities here. But when it comes to an overall striker, I think Thomas is more dangerous. I think he's got that legendary 1-2. I think he goes high-low with a low kick to finish, and it's a crazy, crazy combination he puts together. He's got a beautiful uppercut that I've seen him hit a few people with. It's just the kind of ring rust thing. And it was an eye injury that he was out with, so that's interesting. But he's obviously 100% if he's been cleared to come back, and he has nearly taken 3 years off. So, but when you look at the caliber opposition of who he's lost to and the people that he's beat, and you have to kind of look at the opposition that Martinez has faced. 40-year-old Frankie Sainz, Liu Ping Wang, Li Jiburen, Andre Sukumtath. They're not the greatest kind of caliber opposition, if I'm being honest with you. This to me is a step up, and it's a good step up for him. I think it's a winnable fight, but for me, I'm on Thomas Almeida. I just think he's got better hands. He can establish the kicking game as well, but I don't think he really wants to kind of do that with a guy like Martinez, because he's not a guy that throws full power, but you can see that he's got heavy kicks. So he has to be careful that he doesn't get kind of demobilised early on in this fight here. If he comes out and wins the first round, Almeida's known as a slow start. If he loses that first round, then he might be up against it. I just think we're going to see a rejuvenated, fresh Thomas Almeida here, and I think he could get a finish. But Martinez has shown he's very, very tough to get out there himself. But I'm going to take Thomas Almeida.
Nice, bro. Next up in the light heavyweight division, Jimmy Crute against Modestas Bukauskas. Well, two big boys. Crute now is obviously a bit more established in the light heavyweight division. Interesting matchup. I was surprised that this was made. I thought they would have gave Crute maybe someone a bit higher in the rankings, so to speak. But I suppose light heavyweight division, it's thin pickings. Irony. But Will, what are you looking at in this fight, bro?
This is kind of one of these fights as the week will go on that I'm finding more interesting, because initially I thought Jimmy Crute, I think, has got the advantages here, because you watch some Bukauskas' previous fights and he does get taken down easy, but he's very hard. When I say this, he's easy to get down, but he's hard to he will throw elbows. He will throw like those elbows to the side of the head, so he doesn't like just give up takedowns super easy. He'll kind of work his way and try and hurt you in some way, but he'll also work once he gets to the ground. Crute, to me, I think that's what he has to do, because I don't think he'll want to stand in at the range that kind of Bukauskas kind of throws at, and he throws heavy kicks as well. He's got the reach advantage in this one. I think Crute realises, from what I watched an interview today, that he realises that he needs to get this to the ground, and when he does, he could be very dominant over Bukauskas. And you've seen his last fight against Oleksiejczuk, he was throwing that guy around. I think he had an injured knee, so he's like, I cannot stand with this guy. I just need to get him to the ground and find a way to get him out of there, and he did that. Bukauskas, I think Bukauskas is kind of live in this spot, I'll be honest with you. I think that he's a big dude. He's got some big strikes. If he's improved any of that takedown defense, he could give Jimmy Crute fits in this fight, in my opinion. And Jimmy's still very hittable. And he's still very I still think he's a little bit green, in my opinion. So Modestas, I think he's live, but I have to kind of side on the Jimmy Crute side, in my opinion. I think he gets takedowns, and I think once he gets a number of opportunities to get it there, he'll either get some ground and pound, or he'll get a finish in some spots. So I've got Jimmy Crute for the win there.
Yeah, he did. Bukauskas got dominated in one of his Cage Warriors bouts by one of the Polish fighters who really just put it on him, and he just couldn't stop the takedowns. And it was a variant of different takedowns that was getting applied to him, so it wasn't just one style. It wasn't like a single leg and that was it. It seemed that just in general he was having a bit of a difficult time. Maybe he wasn't getting his body weight low enough, centre of gravity was off, I don't know, he wasn't fighting underhooks enough, but he certainly seemed to, just lack that kind of aspect of his game, which in a match where Jimmy Crute's involved, that's all Jimmy wants, that takedown. And I feel, for me, Jimmy Crute sometimes, bro, you've probably seen it, I think he spends a bit too much time going for a takedown. I think he holds on a bit too long and wastes too much energy. I wish, like, Jimmy Crute would, engage for the takedown. If it's not working, break, throw a couple of shots and reshoot again just to break it up. I feel like it's a hard work to lift another guy who's going to be on easily 220, 230 pounds. That's hard work when you've got it's not a dead weight, it's a resisting weight as well, so suddenly it's even heavier. I just think Jimmy, like you say, he's green. I think he can make a couple of different decisions in fights in that regard. He does get the wins, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to put him down for that, but there is going to be times when it's going to not work well for him, and if he doesn't get the takedowns, for example, in the first round, he's going to be gassed, going to be tired. But Bukauskas could easily start to land shots and start to pull the fight away, but I just don't think he can stop the takedowns. I think Crute will get away to get the fight to the ground, because it was just too much of a red flag for me watching Bukauskas' career in the in Cage Warriors, where he got taken down a couple of times, and I felt like he hadn't addressed it still.
Yeah.
And I thought, how much time have you spent to address that matter, maybe behind the scenes, in regards to Jimmy Crute, right, you're fighting him, that's what you've trained specifically, you'll be trained that specifically, but 6 weeks, 8 weeks isn't maybe enough time sometimes to get prepped for that. So I feel like maybe back then, in the Cage Warriors days, when he was getting those problems, takedowns, he should have been addressing those immediately, and which it might have changed his style of fighting on a striking aspect, so I can't begrudge him. Maybe it's just something that he feels more confident striking in that manner. He can't help but open himself up for it. But I'm going to go Jimmy Crute, man. I think he can get a submission win. I think he can get a takedown to get that W. I just feel he has got a good array of arsenal on the ground to threaten Bukauskas to get that win. He's got a nice array of submissions. He hasn't just got, he's not a one-trick pony. He's like, all right, head and arm chokes my cup of tea and that's it. He'll go out of different various submission wins. And next up we have the co-main event. We have Katlyn Chookagian against Jéssica Andrade. Women's flyweight, Jéssica Andrade. Woo! Man. This is a fight and a half, because you get a girl in Katlyn Chookagian who likes to throw about 600 strikes a minute and land one, but make it sound like she's landed all of them. Where you've got a girl in Jéssica Andrade who wants to hit you and knock you out. Like, she doesn't do the pitter-patter punches. She wants to go and absolutely murk you. She obviously lost to Willie Zhang, and Rose Namajunas. I know it was a split decision with Rose, but she still came out an L. She decided then to go back up to 125. Man, it's an interesting go to 125. It's an interesting matchup, man, because I think we're going to get to see the kind of grappling aspect that Katlyn really has in her arsenal. Because Jéssica Andrade is no way going to be long enough to kind of keep the range fight with this. I think she's going to close the distance down, try to grapple with her. I think Jéssica could throw her around as well. I think she could easily take it down. But Katlyn Chookagian trains at Renzo Gracie's, so she has got legit grappling aspects. She trains with absolute savages there. You've got Dan and her death squad who are up at that place as well, who she gets along with, and obviously will train with them. I was a bit stuck at first. Well, to be honest with you, straight away I went Jéssica because I'm not a fan of Katlyn Chookagian, if I'm honest with you. I don't think she's that good. I just think she's got. It's just the right time to be in the flyweight, to be in that new flyweight division that she's looks better than she is. But man, I find it hard to go against, even though Jéssica lost the last two. I find it hard to go against Jéssica because she's just an absolute monster. She's got good. She can last 3 rounds. She can throw heavy. She can grapple hard. And Katlyn's just going to have a girl in front of her who's an absolute terror. She's not going to be like waiting for her. Like Jessica's not going to be jumping around a circle and trying to do the long game. Like she's just going to be in her face. And Katlyn, I don't think she'll like it. I don't think she'll feel comfortable with someone being really in her face for the 3 rounds. I'm going to go Jéssica Andrade. I think she'll get a decision win, but would it be surprised if Katlyn Chookagian did a 15 minutes got to win? Not at all. Would I be bored? Would I care if she won? Not really. Neither would the UFC, but I'm going to go Jéssica Andrade, bro. I think she can pull it off.
Yeah, I think Chookagian's definitely got a path to victory here. I do. I really. Yeah. I think she can keep her at the end of the job. And I mean, Andrade is super hittable. Like you can absolutely keep her at distance and tee off on her with a jab, and that's what Chookagian can do in this fight. I think she can stay on her wheels and initiate that kind of long jab and keep it at range. But if she doesn't, Andrade is going to bull rush her, and if she can find a way to get this to the ground, then that ground and pound that she has is nasty. And you've seen some girls get splintered with some of the strikes that she throws down there. They're bloodied up, the Gadelia fights especially. And now she's at 125, so I'm interested to see kind of how she looks at this division. She's kind of been at 135, 115, now she's at 125. So let's see what she does here. Chookagian's talking about having kids and she'll never be coming back once she has kids. So that's kind of interesting to me, where she's kind of already looking outside of the octagon. So I'm a little bit, I'm not sure about that. But I always seem to get picked wrong against Chookagian, but I'm going to go with Andrade. I think that she can get takedowns, and I think she can get bloodied up a little bit by Andrade. Andrade will want to make a big impression. She's a former champion jumping into a new division. She'll be a name in that division if she wins. So I'm going to take Jéssica Andrade for the win, probably via decision.
And next up we have in the main event, a little fight going down, 5-round ding-dong, with Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie, or Chang Sung-jung, whichever way you wish to call him. He prefers to be the Korean Zombie, which it's absolutely his choice to be. He might be non-binary, who knows? But look, Will, what a lovely matchup this is. Like, goodness gracious me. The featherweight division have got some top draw bouts that you can make in that kind of division, and this is one of them. Take it away with your view, because I'm just ecstatic about the fight happening. Yeah,
it's a very good fight. Very, very good fight. Looking forward to seeing Ortega back. He's been out, kind of like Almeida, he's been out nearly a couple of years, I want to say. Is it? Actually, that's interesting to me. Let me bring that up.
Yeah, the Max Holloway one was the last time, yeah. So that was what, 2019, was it?
2018. So coming on 2 years in December. That's
kind of old.
So, yeah. I mean, he had to take some time off after that because that was a devastating fight for him. But I think he had a couple of injuries. He had to get surgery in there as well. And they've been trying to make this fight for, I want to say, the last year. And you've got the Zombie on the other side there, who is just an absolute destroyer. I mean, he really is. He's such a great fighter to watch. And he has been from the minute he kind of stepped foot onto kind of American soil in the WEC. He's given us so much. And then he jumps into the UFC and he's given us 7-second knockouts. He's given us twister submissions. He's been on the back end of one of the craziest knockouts from Rodriguez, and he is one of my favourite fighters to kind of watch. And when I know he's on a fight card, I'll pay down my money to watch this guy. And he's just an absolute joy to watch. Ortega's always been, in my opinion, a kind of work in progress, because we know what he's got, and he knows if he can get his arms or something around you or get on a back, you are fucked. Let's put it that way. You're in deep shit if he can get his any of his kind of limbs around you, because he's so good with his jiu-jitsu, and it's kind of crazy how good he actually is with that. But obviously, his striking really had to catch up, and it was kind of catching up. But he's still super hittable, and he's came through a couple of spots in previous fights where he's been in a couple of bad spots. The Brandao fight, the Guida fight, he was in a couple of bad spots, but then he still manages to pull out in the third round, and that's something you have to be careful with here, that he kind of grows stronger as the fight goes on. But he's beaten good guys, Moicano, Swanson, Frankie Edgar. You cannot take those wins away from him. All stoppages. It's kind of crazy that he finds ways in a fight. The Cub Swanson sub is one of the craziest subs I think I've kind of laid eyes on. The way he adjusted and while he was kind of hanging off his neck there was kind of crazy. And then he lost to Max Holloway, but you can't really take much away from the kid there. He'll probably learn more from that fight than any of the rest of his fights kind of all combined together. When you look at Zombie, I absolutely love going back and watching Korean Zombie fights, and I mean I could go back on the Poirier ones and the Garcia ones back in the day, but his recent fights, I know he's lost like 2 of his last 5, and the Rodriguez one, he was winning that fight.
Yeah.
He gets with a Hail Mary elbow in the last second of the fight. That doesn't happen that often. It happened there. The Aldo fight there, he blew out his shoulder in a kind of competitive fight. I thought he was losing, but it was a competitive fight. But once he came back after that kind of 4-year hiatus,
it was military, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Korean military. Yeah, but once he came back against Bermudez, like he's slipping rips. It's crazy, and you've seen that in his like his last.
As a jab, wasn't it? He slipped on Bermudez or something, and just slipped a
Moicano.
jab and ripped his body.
Yeah, it's the Moicano one that gets me. I watched that, and like, I want to say it was a sloppy jab, but I don't think it was. I just think he's seen it coming a mile out, and he's already got it slipped before it's even getting there, and he's already countered with a big right hand, and he was done from there. Frankie Edgar, like I think it was a right left and then an uppercut that caught Frankie there.
Yeah.
And as soon as Frankie was wobbling, they went to the ground a little bit there. He kind of had a position where he had the back and he was hitting some ground and pound. Once he got back to the feet there, he just absolutely nailed him. He was out. So he's got that next level kind of power that can take you out early. But if this goes late, then Ortega maybe comes into it a little bit. That's what I'm kind of a little bit worried about if I'm putting money on the Korean Zombie. But then we have seen Zombie kind of go good in the kind of longer rounds. He was good against Yair. Yair, I thought actually a great fight to kind of stay in that one there and then pull it out somehow. And Brian Ortega is forever dangerous. You cannot let him get like any of his limbs around you, because if he does, I probably say this every time we're on here, the Cub Swanson one where the end of the first round and he's got Cub in the ground and Cub's like, he does not know, and he's got that face, and he's like, "Oh shit!" He's like, "This is tight. Like this is legit, kind of next level kind of grappling." And he showed it again in the second. So you can't let that guy get anything around you. I've seen that he's made some changes to his camp, and he's actually moved over to the camp where TJ Dillashaw is, Juan Archuleta, who's the Bellator champion, Cub Swanson. So he's getting more. He's always been a guy that never had many kind of pro fighters round about. He had the Gracie brothers there where he learns a lot of his jiu-jitsu from, but he's changed up and he's actually got decent sparring partners now. So I'm interested to see how that kind of plays out. But for me, I just think, not unless he's made monumental improvements, I think Zombie's going to hurt him at some point in this fight. And like I say, he's shown his durability. He's shown that he's got a lot of heart, but he might need it again in this fight here, because if Zombie starts picking him off, then he could be in a lot of trouble. I'm not saying that Korean Zombie can't be knocked out, because he's been sparked by George Root with a head kick. He's been hurt with punches in the past. Poirier hurt him with some big strikes in their classic encounter. But I just feel that he could land something crisp here and kind of back T-City up and really kind of put it on him a little bit. So as much as I actually kind of, this is one of these fights through the week as well that I think Ortega might be a little bit live as the week goes on, but my gut feeling is with the Korean Zombie here, I actually really want to see him against Volkanovski. I think that's a great fight. I think it's a really good fight. So I've got him via maybe a late TKO, maybe a decision here, But I think Ortega keeps it very competitive. I just think that he's kind of second to the punch. He'll eat some damage, and that'll kind of be the kind of story of the fight for me.
Yeah, like I say, well, one of the things is the time that Ortega's had off. How much will that affect him in the game? In, like, reaction time, speed. One thing the Korean Zombie is, I think he catches out. I think one of the things is how fast he is. The Korean Zombie's surprisingly faster than he looks in the way he moves and the way, because he's very nonchalant when he's fighting. He's quite calm on his feet, almost just walks around. But dude is like a viper, just shoots out. And like you said, Will, those slips and lands on those counters. That Bermudez one was absolutely delicious. Frankie Edgar, bless him, he was he was a mess when it went to the ground. He was obviously on a queer street, got an absolute pounding on the ground. Korean Zombie, obviously, they stood up, and Frankie was like, no, I'm still, I want to lie back down again. And he didn't take much from Mark to go, I'm alright, Frankie. I know Frankie's tough, but I can't let him take any more. He's getting absolutely, he locked him out another 10 years off, Frankie, bless him. But all the same, the Korean Zombie, man, he's such a well-rounded, complete, solid fighter. He's got good defense. He's got great offense. He's got takedown defense, submission games. Obviously, Ortega on the ground is a different kind of fish. But for me, Brian Ortega's got to get the takedown in, you know. And look at the Max Holloway fight. Brian didn't really have much of a chance to get takedowns. He got one or two, but Holloway was up like a shot. They weren't that clean of takedowns. And here, Zombie, he's strong. He'll have a good defense base for it as well. His feet are kind of planted heavy. Ortega was doing well. He landed some good shots on Max Holloway, but Zombie has got really good slip. He's got really good head movement and good counters, almost to an extent where Holloway will throw 60% on the shots. About 60% power Holloway is. He's not going to throw 100. Korean Zombie just cracks hard. Like, he throws like an 80, 90, 100% shot back. So that's something that you got to take into consideration, that he is hittable, Ortega. And when he gets hit with a shot from Korean Zombie, it's not going to be like a Holloway crack. It's going to be a different kettle of fish. And I think, Ortega's going to have a tough time with it. I just think he's training with the likes of, it's a great thing doing that with TJ Dillashaw, etc. He's going to get some great striking information. It might even improve his defense, maybe to an extent, never mind his offense. But I still feel that the Korean Zombie's just got so much about him, man. He's an absolute savage, and he's so hard to defeat, and he doesn't lose to just, Korean Zombie these days, like you say, that one-off random elbow from Yair. Man, I've got to favour the Zombie. I just feel that he has got 5 rounds in him. He has got a toughness about him as well as Ortega, but he has got that stoppable power. He has got that power that can mess up your day. And we saw Ortega's cheek just blow up in that fight against Holloway. Something like that could happen again with him, where it's not his fault he stopped. It's the referee saying you're just too much of a mess. He could be one of those guys that just bloodies and his face blows up, and like a Mark Hominick on the forehead with Aldo. You never know. But I'm going to go with the Korean Zombie here. He's just a savage, isn't he? Just a murderer. Love him to bits. Right, Will, we're going to go to the betting side, but before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, hit that subscribe button, let us know your bets, give us some picks, and of course, hit the like button. If you haven't done that already, you're ridiculously slow with that. So get on it, folks. Will, bro, any bets on this card that are worth looking at, or maybe wait until the end of the week for? What do you think?
I think there's definitely spots if you can find like some of the plays you like. I mean, I've got one bet right now, and it's Almeida. So Thomas Almeida was a decent-sized favourite, where Martinez was a decent-sized underdog, and then it got bet down to a pick'em, like minus 110. And I thought if I could get anything under minus 125, I'm all over it. I got him at minus 110. So nice. I'm in on Thomas Almeida. That was something that I wanted in that fight, and he's went back up to minus 130. So I go on that, and I've hopefully beaten the kind of line movement on that one there. I'm kind of tempted by Botelho. She's been bet down from minus 200 to minus 185, so plus 185, I should say. I think that I'll maybe pass on that one. Faris Ziam at plus 120 is one that interests me as well. I think that fight could be relatively close, and I think the value, I like that. I actually like that spot, plus 120. I don't think it's a bad line at all. The other bets I was kind of looking at was Chan Sung Jung and Mateusz Gamrot. The minus 300 for Gamrot's maybe a tad high because Guram's good. I mean, he's a decent fighter. And I was thinking of maybe parlaying them together, and it's still something I'm looking at. It's around about plus money for that as well. I was looking at the Cyril Gane fight there before it got called off, over 1.5 rounds, which was plus 100, was something that I was looking at. But if you've got a couple of shots on dogs, I mean, I don't think Bukauskas is that bad. He's plus 280. He's a big kind of dog in that spot there. Antigulov's plus 300. He could snatch up a neck in the first minute and make it look easy. I'm just not willing to put any money on that kind of guy there. So the kind of spots I'm looking at is I've already in Almeida. Botelho, I could maybe make a bet on, but might pass. Ziam, I probably will bet. And the kind of other one that I do like is Chan Sung Jung, the zombie, and what's the other guy I mentioned? Gamrot is what I kind of like for betting this week. I mean, Cláudio Silva's a decent-sized underdog, a good underdog there. If you pick him, then it might not be bad with it. Throw a bit of money on him. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm round about. I'm actually kind of thinking here I should have put more on Almeida, but then I'm thinking, am I too overconfident in Thomas Almeida? And so I'm kind of sat here kind of doubting myself a little bit whether I should have put more on. But I think from what I have, I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, that's where I am for this week. If you got any bets, all the very, very best this weekend. Hope you cash them all and make yourself some decent sized money.
And we will back next week for the little fight of Khabib and Gaethje. That'll be going down with Whittaker and Kinnear as well on the card. Walt Harris, Volkov. You've got Ankalaev, Kutateladze, 600 attempt at that fight.
Casey Kenny and Nathaniel Wood.
Okay, yeah. There's a ton of fights on there, guys. So we'll be back for that card. Again, join us for it. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back soon. Boom, boom, boom.